Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. And you're at Crossroads, so if that's where you intended to be, you're in the right place. I'm Connie Ryan. I'm the Executive Director of Interfaith Alliance of Iowa, and I'm really glad to have each of you in the room and those of you who are watching online as well. Crossroads really at its core is about civil dialogue, and sometimes that's really hard, right? Especially in today's climate. I'm doing a presentation in Cedar Falls on Sunday afternoon, and they wanted me to talk about civility, and I kind of dragged my feet for a while, and I finally went back to them and said, I'll talk about civility, because I've done lots of presentations on civility. But in today's world, I also want to talk about the political harm that's happening to people, to individuals, to children. And so, like, we can't just talk about civility, we also have to talk about the things that are impacting everyday people. And one of those things is our public libraries. We're seeing public libraries being attacked, and librarians, and the impact on our communities and our children and our families is important to take note of. And so I'm delighted to have Sue Woody, who is the director of the Des Moines Public Library, with us today to talk about all the things, not just banning books, and I'm sure that will be a key piece of what Sue talks about, but all the other things that the public libraries are doing to address challenges, but also the opportunities that they're seeing in our communities. And so I am excited to have her with us, and I'm just going to turn it over to Sue. If you will help me welcome Sue Woody.
Okay, thank you so much, Connie, and thank you all for attending. This is really quite a delight and an honor for me to be here with you today. So I do want to talk first about all of the great things that are happening with Des Moines Public Library, and so many things that you might not have any idea that we are a part of. But starting with our mission. Our mission is to strengthen our community by connecting people with the ideas and the tools that they need to enrich their lives. Expanding from that, we go to our vision, creating a stronger, more dynamic Des Moines where everyone's potential is realized. And my favorite is very clear and simple, our motto: we inform and inspire the curious. It's all about providing the information that is relevant to whoever is looking for that information, and the information that they need, because only they know what they need. So I do come across from time to time people who still say, oh, our library is relevant, or even worse, oh, libraries aren't for me, I don't need libraries. We all need libraries. And why? Because we are all about providing information. We are information powerhouses, either in the services that we offer, the materials, the programs, or our online and digital offerings. We are palaces for the people. And I include churches as a palace for the people. These are spaces where we are all welcome, where we are all safe. You don't have to be a member. You don't have to pay money. You don't have to buy anything to be able to enjoy that space. It's a place where people come together. We don't have our own palaces, but we have places like churches and libraries that are palaces for everyone. Libraries are critical for lifelong learning, and that's why all of you are here today. If we stop learning, we stop living. And the library is for all ages, from baby rhyme time to programs for seniors, adults, young adults, kids, everyone. One of our most important missions is promoting literacy, and because reading matters. Reading is so important. It betters our lives, and especially our children's lives, because they cannot read to learn if they haven't learned to read. And so we'll be talking more about that in a few minutes. And when I first wrote this one, libraries provide safe spaces for all. I wrote down children, and I'm like, oh no, we are a safe space for everyone. Physically safe, emotionally and intelligently safe, but when it's 3 degrees below zero, we are a warming center. When it's 103 degrees, we are a cooling center. And many of our libraries are that safe space for children when they get out of school before their mom and dad. Some kids are even picked up at the library when their parents get home from from school. We want to be that safe place for them. Libraries help preserve our history. If we don't remember our history, we are doomed to forget it. And so we do have archives at the library. And even as fun as we have all of the high school's yearbooks. You can come in and find them, but you can also get them online because we are in the process of digitizing a lot of our archival information. Des Moines has such a rich history, and the library has been there all along. We were established in 1866, and we are still serving our community. So yes, libraries are still relevant after all these years. Access to technology, what we take for granted, what we have at our fingertips, what we have in our hand, not everyone has. So it's not just the computers, it's Wi-Fi. We have hotspots that circulate now, access to some fancy technologies, and I'll talk about those in a little bit as well. Job search champions, we love to help people find jobs, and when they're in the library, we can help them apply for positions, we can help them with their resume, we have programs about how to get a job and keep a job, and we love it when they don't show up anymore, because why? They're working, they have a job, and they come back, and then we celebrate that. That's a win. As a place to experience new things, we have thousands of programs that we offer, and it's where people can come and meet new people, experience new things, whether it's storytelling or having author visits, STEM experiences for children, and creative experiences for teens as well. But let's start with the books, because we are about books. We love our books. We love reading. Reading matters. If you're not in a book club, how many of you are already in a book club? I bet you a lot of you are. Excellent. If you are not and would like to be one, we have about at least 10 or 11 different book clubs at the library. We'd love to have you join us. If you have your own book club, you might want to know that we circulate book club sets. We've got dozens and dozens of book club sets. You get the whole set, 10, 12 copies of a book with discussion questions, and saves a lot of money, actually. Those are expensive. And speaking of saving money, we've got a library savings tracker. You can go online, you can look at your own library history of what you've checked out, how many DVDs, how many CDs, movies, books that you've checked out, and it'll tell you how much you save. It just makes economical and sustainability sense. And we want to challenge you to read. We want you to read. We love people who love their mysteries, or people who love their romance. No guilt in that, no shaming here. But we want you to read outside what you usually read. And we do have an annual reading challenge. And I love this picture of our librarians. There's no bun-wearing, cardigan shushers in that picture. Adorable, cute, vibrant, passionate, extremely intelligent librarians. And they are there for you. They are waiting. These are Jess and Sarah, who have a podcast that are so entertaining. They just cannot wait to tell you what book to read next. I can't keep up with them. And so much more. It's just digital offerings alone. By far our most popular item at the library, which is not even at the library, is Libby. Raise your hands if you use Libby. These are our digital e-audiobooks, e-books, and e-magazines. They come to life on your device, on your Kindle, on your phone, on your computer. They are truly they're game changers for us. And Canopy is a streaming service that's foreign films, art house films, great courses are on there, lots of different movies that you can check out. Mango is a language learning, consumer reports at your fingertips. And I don't know, many people don't know, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Wall Street Journal are all free on a daily basis for you from the library. No paywalls, no hassles. It's very easy to just download and read them on a daily basis. Information, current, up to date, at your fingertips. So many online without even having to come into one of our locations. Something that we've offered recently is the Library of Things. So we're not just about books and information, we're about items that you can check out. And some people just only want to use it once. Some people might want to trial use it and see if they want to invest their own money in it. Things that might be like GoPro cameras, microscopes, telescopes, radon detector kits, tools, kitchen items, food dehydrators, pasta makers, ice cream makers, cookie cutters, even specialized things, games. We've got outdoor games like croquet and cornhole. We've got dozens of board games that you might want to check out, try, see if you like it before you invest your own money in it. So many things, tools, technology, games, and so much more. Even vacuum cleaners and carpet cleaners. Not everyone has a vacuum cleaner at home, but they do want a clean home, so we are there for them. And some accessibility tools as well. So important. Iowa Adventure Passes. This is a little known secret that I don't want it to be a secret because it's a huge benefit. We have passes called Adventure Passes where 2 adults and 2 children, 4 people can get a pass to go to the Botanical Center, the zoo, the Science Center, the Iowa Children's Museum, and it's not on here a picture, but it's going to be needed pretty soon, the Breton Skating Plaza. So for a family of 4 to go to one of these events, costs a lot of money. So these are experiences that you can check out from the library. You can do each of these once a year. Check them out on your library card. Amazing. Tech Central is also something new and exciting. We talked about technology. We've got computers, we've got hotspots, we've got wireless, but this is a place at our central library that has high technology items, high and low actually. We've got a Glowforge laser cutter. Now, a lot of people don't want to invest in one of those, but we can teach you how to use it, and you can use it at the library. We've got audio and video production, editing, with green screens, and you can, maybe you want to tell your stories to your grandkids and you want to videotape that, or maybe just audio it. So we could do that at the library. Maybe you've got some old, when we all had those big camcorders, and you've got some old DVD tapes or some other, we might want to transform it into a thumb drive, something you could put in your pocket, years worth of that. We can help you with that in our makerspace. And we even have some lower tech that some people still want to use and need to use, a sewing machine or a button maker, Adobe software. We've got so many things that you can use right at Central Library. And programs. We really literally do have thousands of programs every year. And I put a couple up here because they're close by here at Franklin. We've really had a resurgence of nature and sustainability programs at Franklin. And I'd love for you to go in and check out Community Roots. It's a root display. It goes like 12 feet. So if you've noticed all the flowers, the native flowers and landscaping around the Franklin Avenue Library, those roots go down 12 feet into the ground. This is why they're so important, those native prairie plants. So learn more about that. Margaret Renkel's going to be there on November 2nd, and she's a nature fiction writer. And we also have Cornelia Mutel. I didn't get the slide on there in time, but Cornelia has a book that is called Tending Iowa's Land. And it's edited stories by 9 different authors that deal with subjects such as Iowa soils, flowing water, climate, native biodiversity. All of those contributors will be at the Franklin Avenue Library on November 6th at 6 p.m. All of this information is right on our website, dmpl.org. And it's so easy to find. Otherwise, you can call or come in. So much going on. Avid. Has anyone been to our Avid Authors Visiting in Des Moines series? This is where we have authors coming in every spring. And I can't tell you yet because the big reveal is tonight. I'll give you hints and you'll find out. We'll probably do a press release next week. We are already working on the 2024 Avid series, and we're bringing someone in who's big. He is big. He is one of the biggest. And that's all I'm going to tell you. But we are bringing in a world-class author that you all have heard of and most of you have read on April 10th of next year, so of 2024. So we're super, super proud. And the reason why is because we have such a good following for our Avid series, and they know that we will pack the house and we will deliver. And this is a very special book by a very special author coming out this spring. That's all I'm going to tell you. Also, another big focus of the library, as I alluded to earlier, is literacy. This is so important, and we have spent a lot of time and energy and resources helping our community, and I'll show you why in a little bit, but we have two programs. Our first program was Simple Steps to Success. 5 simple things anyone can do with any child. This is pre-literacy. Read, write, talk, sing, and play. By doing those 5 simple things every day with our little ones, they go to school, they go to preschool and kindergarten ready to learn, so much more ready. And then for the kids who are in kindergarten through 3rd grade, if they have not learned to read, they cannot read to learn. So this is a new literacy, Rosie Reader Literacy Initiative. And you'll be hearing more about that as it rolls out. But I want to go back a step because you'll see on that Engage magazine, there's 2 vehicles. It's hard to see, but one's a Rotary Rosie Reader van that was a Rotary donated funds for us to go out into the community. This past year, we've bought 3 new electric vehicles. I kind of call them Rosie's offspring. They're little cute little EVs that go out into the community. We now have 4 full-time outreach librarians going out to daycares, Head Starts, preschools, and 2nd grade classrooms, bringing books, bringing stories, and enticing children to love literature as much as all of us do. So there's Rosie, our reading monster. So that's one of our highest level initiatives that we're going through at the library. Ongoing. There's so much more. I could talk forever. I know this is not what we want to talk about today. Let's talk about wireless printing. A couple things I want to just note that. Did you know we have notary services? So you can come to any of our libraries, make an appointment if you need something notarized. We have wireless printing if your printer goes out, and hotspot checkouts. Please use our meeting rooms or study rooms. If you just need a quiet place, remember, Palace is for the people. Come use us. So let's talk about the challenges facing libraries today. I can't believe we're talking about this in 2023, censorship. I know I'm speaking to the choir here. We all agree censorship is un-American. Our First Amendment rights are under attack, and we need to do something because there's a lot of anti-library legislation going on right now. It started with the schools, but we do have targets on our back at the public libraries, and it's here. Low literacy rates I've alluded to. We'll talk a little bit more. I want to show you what they actually are. You'll be shocked. Serving diverse communities is another challenge that we face. And a fun challenge coming up in the future is here. It's now. Artificial intelligence, AI. What does that have in store for libraries? I don't necessarily know, but we're working on it. So let's start with banned books. These are affecting schools and public libraries. Schools were targeted first. They were an easy target. There's little they could do to fight back. But most of the challenges, about 50-50, are now in public libraries. And as we see communities grow more and more conservative, it's drastically affecting their libraries. So what do banned books look like? I'm gonna save that one. They're books that we probably had to read growing up. Catcher in the Rye, we read that one. Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. Did everybody read Animal Farm or 1984? Yeah, we all read that. The Kite Runner. You know, a lot of these, it's language, it's profanity, it's sex, sex is a big one. To Kill a Mockingbird, didn't we all have, wasn't this required reading? We all had to read this. There are racial slurs, sexual violence, Handmaid's Tale, depictions of violence, sexual content, profanity. Catch-22, depictions of violence. It's about war, of course. Language, profanity. I would be cussing too. I'm not even in a war and I cuss all the time. Misogynist attitudes. This was surprising. This is Uncle Tom's Cabin. And when this originally came out, it was banned because it had accurate portrayals of the slave experience. Wow. People didn't want to know. We see that with the 1619 Project. We're erasing history because it's too hard for us to handle. And today, this book is gay, genderqueer, LGBTQ community members, and Black and brown people of color are really the most recent targets, especially the LGBTQ community, especially the children who are questioning and need information and need to be represented. And they seem to be the latest target. And that's what banned books looks like. This chart shows you, we went for years, we went for decades, you know, ho-hum, banned books week, what do we do? Same 10 titles every year. Well, look at it, it's just skyrocketed. And I can tell you that 2023 will probably be over 3,000 titles that are challenged. Crazy. And it is here, it's here in our community. It started with Senate File 496, which prohibits anything, books, materials, texts that mention or allude to gender identity and sexual orientation for the little kids, or anything that depicts sexual acts for the older kids. Everything needs to be age appropriate. Well, what teacher isn't going to be promoting information that isn't age appropriate? Our teachers are under attack. Our school librarians are under attack. And if they do dare present these books for kids to read, what's going to happen to them? Are they going to be disciplined? Are they going to risk their license, losing their teaching license over a handful of books? What incentive do they have to fight back on this when their jobs are on the line? And in some states, you know, there's even criminal penalties that they're talking about. And so they pushed Senate File 496 as fast as they could, yet they gave them, the Board of Education gave them little to no direction on how to enact this. What does this mean? They gave them so little direction that Urbandale was probably one of the first to say, okay, we've got our list, there's like 370 something titles on there, and received a lot of backlash about that. Some of the titles that they had on their list, they didn't even have in their schools. So they just put every book that was anything that had to do with LGBTQ communities or what have you. They did whittle that down to a mere, 66 or so titles today, which includes some of these 1984 and Handmaid's Tale and some of these classics that I've talked about. I love this. I'll read it to you because it's hard to read, but there's a little free library outside of an Urbandale school, and it reads, "This little library is not funded, sponsored, endorsed, or maintained by the Urbandale Community School District and is not in any way part of the Urbandale Schools library program." It makes me want to take all these books and like go shove them in that little library. But it is in our community. We are at risk of losing school boards. There's a takeover in process right now, and they'll be voting on November 7th for the Johnston School Board. And there's a lot of people who are very conservative, and they just want to take over their school board. The same thing is happening in small communities with their libraries, with their public libraries. And we'll talk a little bit about library governance in a moment, but they can take it over, and they can get in there and be in that position of authority to start banning books that they have in their own libraries. Could be worse. It could be Texas. Wow, Texas, Florida, Arkansas, it's scary what's going on. But we have a library hero, and you'll have to bear with me because I really do want to read this to you. That man pictured, his name is Forrest Spalding, and he was the library director of the Des Moines Public Library, our own local library hero back in 1938. He drafted what is known as the Library Bill of Rights. And this is a document to help libraries who are struggling with how to handle challenges to intellectual freedom. It was adopted by the American Library Association the next year in 1939, and it is today, this had a few amendments and alterations along the way, it is the cornerstone of our collection development policy today, and it is across the nation. So we're very proud of old Forrest Spalding, and I've got an abridged version. It's hard to read, so I'm going to read it to you, so thank you for accommodating me. 1, library resources should be provided for the interest, information, and enlightenment of all in the community that the library serves. 2, libraries should provide materials and information that present all points of view. I'm not going to say that we're Switzerland. We do have our own opinions, but we do want to make sure that everyone is accommodated. 3, Libraries should challenge censorship. This is a directive. Libraries should challenge censorship. And related, 4, libraries should cooperate with all persons and groups who are concerned with free expression and free access to ideas. 5, a person's right to use the library should not be denied because of origin, race, age, background, views. 6, libraries should make spaces available to the public regardless of the beliefs or affiliations of those requesting their use. 7, libraries should advocate for, educate about, and protect people's privacy, safeguarding all of their library use. And when I say we have a target on our back, that's why we have this. Richard Norton's got the same t-shirt on, protecting our freedom, and we put this on our back to protect us. So what can you do? Be informed. You're here today to be informed. Read the books, check them out. Circulation matters. Sales matters. Encourage other people to read the book. Get your book clubs to read these books. Talk about them. Talk to decision makers. That could be school board members. That could be city council people, the mayor, our new school board superintendent, our school superintendent. Talk to principals. Talk to anyone who's in a position of authority, and our elected officials, of course. And support an advocacy organization. These organizations, Annie's Foundation is local. It's a group. Annie was a woman who was very passionate about censorship in the Johnston School District. And unfortunately, she passed away, and her best buddies took up that torch and came up with Annie's Foundation. So they are all about getting banned books into the hands of kids. I talked about anti-library legislation. Of course, there was Senate File 496, but there's also House File 718. This jeopardizes library levies. We can't say there is a library specific just to libraries. So many libraries get their funding through levies, and now it might just be part of a city levy, and they may or may not get money directed to them. We've got a scary situation happening in Pella right now. On November 7th, the city is going to go to vote on this issue that they have suggested they limit the library board's authority. And just to back up, libraries are different than the rest of the city. We are municipally funded. I get my budget from the city of Des Moines, but I am governed by a library board of trustees who are appointed by the mayor. So we are all attached, but we are separate and we are different. And that our library board of trustees and our administration decides library policy, control over our budget, hiring the director, hopefully not firing the director, but that's their purview as well, and strategizing for the future. So we want that to be separate. We do not want that to be politicized in any way. And that's what could happen in Pella and other small conservative communities. Funding cuts, there was an article or a story on, I think, KCCI this week about Hampton. Their county money, I believe, was cut by 12%. And they believe that it was because of backlash over their unwillingness to ban certain titles or even move them to a separate location. And there's a new one down the road coming about Institutional Viewpoint Neutrality Act, which says libraries cannot have an opinion on anything. They did not see that libraries should challenge censorship on the Library Bill of Rights. So that one's coming down the pike. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I told you I would talk about literacy rates. This is my sad slide. Super scary. These are last spring literacy rates here in the city of Des Moines. It's that big red line. It's hard to read. All over the state, literacy rates run between 66 and 76%. In Des Moines, 43 to 53, 54%. That's a F. That's not a D, that's an F. That's a big fat F. The Sea of Green, that's our Ankeny's, Urbandale's, Johnston, Waukee. Our metro peers are doing much better than the city of Des Moines. That's why we have a new superintendent. This is what he talks about, the achievement gap. This is what he's talking about. And this is directly related to poverty. This is directly related to a diverse community. And that's why we have our Simple Steps to Success. That's why we have our Rosie Reader initiative. That's why we're taking our librarians out of our buildings and sending them out into the community. We all have to be a part of the solution. Another challenge that we have is, I know, 12:30, but just a couple more slides. Serving diverse communities, and by diverse, in addition to our communities are changing, especially here in Des Moines. Our schools are now minority majority. We have a high level of English as a second language families moving into Des Moines, and we as a library need to respond. We want to be diverse in our staff. We want to have bilingual programming, bilingual materials, and be able to help the people with accessibility, no matter what that looks like to them. Homelessness is another huge issue. Since the pandemic, homelessness and mental health, I believe the two are very intertwined, issues have skyrocketed in Des Moines, and they all come into the library. And we are very proud that the city has allowed us to hire a community resource specialist. Her name is Ashlyn Lippert. She's only been here a couple of months, and she's a social worker. We have a social worker at the library. And here in just a couple months, here I have to write them down. Here are just a few of the things that she's helped people with in this short amount of time. Mental health issues, domestic violence, housing, food assistance, emergency shelter, legal aid, social security, medical issues, clothing, transportation, recovery and addiction. These are all things that she's helped dozens of people with already in a very short time here. So the city is being responsive. We've got downtown patrols for added security. We have hired a new homeless coordinator, and Amber Lewis is her name. She's with the city. She's the city's homeless coordinator. So just like literacy, it takes all of us. It takes the people in this room. It takes the libraries. It takes the city. It takes our police. We all need to address these issues, including some challenges that we have with our students, and especially at Forest Avenue. I have staff that are afraid to come to work because our teenagers, they've always been a little rowdy, especially in our Forest Avenue library. I was the manager there for years. Now they have guns. In the paper today, if you read the paper today, Urbandale, there was a young man who brought a loaded weapon. They caught him vaping in the bathroom or something, and then found later a loaded weapon. Our teens have weapons now, and a lot of violence, a lot of gunshots, a lot of auto thefts are happening right around our Forest Avenue library. So we're hiring off-duty police officers evenings and weekends at that location to keep our staff and our patrons safe. So these are huge challenges that we're trying to deal with. We're getting new security at Central, and our social worker is a huge blessing to us. Here's the fun one. Those are heavy. Artificial intelligence. I know, super scary, right? Because it's such an unknown. Super scary to me too, but it's here. It's going to stay. It's not going to go away. It's fast, but it's going to be good. Remember calculators? They did not do away with math. We still have math, don't we? We can't live without computers, even though we thought that might replace us all. And I'm here living proof that Google did not take away the need for libraries. We still need librarians and libraries, and we will be here for you every step of the way, teaching you how to use our new technology and AI generation and ChatGPT and Alexa and all the exciting new world out there. Yeah, scary a little bit. But finally, I would just like to say, reading matters. It improves lives. It's all about promoting empathy and tolerance and understanding, as opposed to judgment and division that our world is filled with today. And we read to seek knowledge, and we need knowledge for critical thinking and making informed decisions about what is important to us. And what is important to me might be different from every person in this room, but it's knowledge. It's knowledge that we need. It's not something to be feared. It should never be controlled, but it should be celebrated, and it must be defended. And that's what we're doing, because we all have rights to our freedom of expression and unrestricted and equitable access to information. And that's what libraries are for. And thank you so much for listening to me. Time for questions.
Thank you so much, Sue. If you will raise your hand, I will bring the microphone to you, catch my eye, and I'll know who I'm going to next.
My question is, I'm from Carlisle, and I was looking at the chart. And we start off rather poorly. We do better through middle school, and then kind of go off at the end, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. Why do you think that is?
I think we have so many, I think our children have so many distractions in the world today, especially as they get older. There are so many, you know, and it's great if they're involved in teams and sports and music, but there's a lot of competition for their time. And this is a big part of it. They're not reading for rigor, they're doing this. They could do that very easily. And they're getting snippets of information at a time. I think attention spans are a fraction of what they used to be. And I think as the kids grow older, maybe that might be part of the reason why. That's why it's so important to get them before they even get to school. That pre and early literacy, so important.
When one of those laws was passed, I think it's the K through 6, there was an article in the Register about it, and I was posting a comment, and I said, based on the definition of what should be banned, I thought the Bible should be banned. And I gave an example and quoted it, and I got a message back saying my comment would not be allowed because of inappropriate sexual content.
Thank you for sharing that. The Bible is full of violence and sex and bad words and grinding of teeth and all that stuff.
Well, and actually in the law, they put an exception for the Bible, so that's okay.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
It's actually written into it.
I was just wondering what kind of volunteer opportunities there are at the library for people
Oh,
like
thank
us.
you. Yes, we love volunteers, and we welcome all volunteers. It's basically, what do you want to do? What are you comfortable doing? And it might be, my parents were volunteers for years. Their job, and they took it so seriously, once a week they came in and they shelved our holds. And I had to worry because my dad, who was like 85, was getting up on these. I'm like, Dad, no, don't do that. But from shelving holds to helping our librarians to cutting out things for our crafts to digitizing. When I talked about I want to digitize a lot of our archives, that's kind of a manual digitization. That just takes bodies, that just takes people with fingers and entering all that information. There's so many different things that you could do. For things like storytelling and things like that, we do have trained librarians, so I know it would be super fun to come in and tell stories, but that's what our staff is for. We have to be careful that our volunteers don't step. We have unionized staff, and we try to keep the roles separate, but we always have opportunities at any of our 6 locations. Thank you for asking that.
Whatever happened to Marion the librarian?
Marion, we don't wear those buns anymore. But we do still celebrate Marion and Forrest Spalding.
I belong to a group called Building Lives Through Reading, and we give books to children in the Des Moines Public Schools, one a month to several schools. Our model is a program that did something like this in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and they worked with the library so that children of poverty did not have to pay library fines when they return their books, because sometimes they don't get there in time. Mm-hmm. Is that something that is done here or that is being looked into?
I'm so glad you asked that question. Yes. Back in the time of the George Floyd and a lot of the social unrest that we were experiencing, the library made the decision to waive all late fines on children's items and reduce fines for adults from 25 cents per day per book down to 10 cents per day per book. I'm not going to tell you who that avid author is, but I am going to give you a sneak preview. After the first of the year, the library will be going 100% fine-free for late fines. So there will be, that is a barrier. Yeah. We have to get through some hurdles technology-wise to make that happen, but we will be going fine-free. If you lose a book, you still have to pay for a book or bring it back. But late fines are a barrier. And 10 cents per day per book doesn't sound like a lot to us, but to others, it might be.
We have a friend who is interested in providing books to be available for children whose parents are incarcerated in the jail. Do you work with those children specifically as they visit their family members or in their homes?
You know, we have in the past. We don't have a program for that right now, but you remind me of something I do want to let people know about. And a wise woman told me, her name was Elaine Estes, maybe some of you know her. She told me that children need 3 libraries. They need a school library, They need a public library and they need a home library. Children need books in their home. They're proud of them. They internalize them. That they need to be everywhere. Thank you, though.
I have a quick question. Where can we get a t-shirt?
Oh, I'm sorry to say that this particular t-shirt at this time is exclusive to library employees and board. But that said, if you go to Raygun, if you just Google Raygun and Des Moines Public Library, and don't go buy their version, because get the version that has Des Moines Public Library on it, because some of the proceeds go back to the library. We've got that I Read Banned Books one. We've got a rainbow one that says the libraries are for everyone. And we've got another one through Raygun that says reading builds brains, or libraries build brains. And so there's lots of cool Des Moines Public Library centric t-shirts available through Raygun.
Does the Des Moines Public Library receive used books that are in good condition from old guys, as well as magazines that are within a year or two of publication?
We do. And I know I just mourn the loss of the Planned Parenthood book sale for Des Moines. I was there on Thursday night and bought a bunch of books and talked to everybody there. I'm like, these are my people. So we do have book sales at all of our locations. They're ongoing throughout the year. And probably twice a year we have big book sales. So I anticipate that our book donations are going to increase. That's where we sell our withdrawn books, but we also sell our donated books. And the reason why that's so important, that money goes right back to the library. So when we sell your books and magazines, we are able to provide money for programming, provide librarian needs. We don't get a budget for furniture and library carts and things like that. So that's what the budget that they have is what we can make through our book sales. So, Sheena.
So I have this idea that we should send Fahrenheit 451 to all the Republican legislatures around Congress.
Thank you.
I think if we just, slam them with Fahrenheit 451.
Oh, I totally agree with you. We had a big push last year. We did lots of programs around Fahrenheit 451. And if you're not familiar, it's a book about burning books. And it's an important book, and it was written a long time ago, but it's still relevant today and still scary, and people making up their own data and information and burning the books that have the truth in them.
Hi, my name is Deborah, and I just want to compliment you on the thoroughness of your presentation. There are a lot of services that I didn't know were available to me. And as a small business owner, I'll be looking into some of those freebies. Mine is more of a comment just to support your points about advocacy. I live in Urbandale, but my son attends Des Moines schools. And then my friend Deb here is with the Johnston area Democrats. I'm with the Urbandale area Democrats. And I would encourage you guys, even though my son doesn't attend Urbandale or Johnston, I'm going to be helping my friends in those districts with literature drops, with postcard writing, trying to get people to the polls November 7th, and to gain some awareness. So there's no requirements. You can sign up to help us out because I feel like there's a complacency in the Des Moines school districts, and whatever happens in the burbs is going to continue to encroach on the rest of us in our little liberal bubbles. And so, yeah, I would encourage finding political groups if you're not already a part of them, but then actually getting yourself activated. And you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. There are plenty of tasks to do without having to actually hit the pavement too. Deb, yeah.
And I just want to add, the 4 opposition candidates in Johnston were just endorsed by Family Leader. Need I say more? So we need your help to keep control of our school board. Otherwise, things are really going to change.
They are. VOTE.
Find us on Facebook.
Vote. Make sure you use your voice. That's our vote. And
I would just
love
add,
READ, but VOTE is so important.
I would just add a reminder that school board elections are nonpartisan. but there are good organizations that are really doing the hard work to help school board candidates. So.
Yes, will you be using volunteers for your outreach program to make it more effective to get kids out and reading?
I would like to do that in the future. This is a brand new program and it is made available by federal funding. We requested a grant for it and we received $1 million grant. And it's just now, this fall, we're just now hitting the streets and it's now fully up and running. That provided for those 3 little electric vehicles and 3 full-time librarians. We already had 1 vehicle and one librarian. And it's such a new program. It's just this fall. So we need this program to grow. And I think volunteers would be volunteering in any school is so important. And volunteering at the library is just as important as well. So I would like to see the program grow. And in order for it to continue, we will probably be doing some fundraising. We've got 3 years worth. And we're halfway through that first year, just trying to get up and running and do what we're doing. But that's a great idea. And I will take that back to the team. We need volunteers and we need boots on the ground in the neighborhoods, in the churches, and in the schools.
We have someone watching from Cedar Rapids. Her question is, do the public libraries across the state have relationships with one another to support each other?
We do. That's a great question. Both the metro libraries, we meet on a monthly basis and we talk about this, we commiserate, and we get ideas from each other, but we also do across the state. We've got an organization called IUPLA, and that's Iowa Urban Public Libraries Association. And that includes the directors from Council Bluffs, Davenport, Dubuque, Waterloo, Sioux City, Des Moines, West Des Moines. Ankeny is now involved in that as well, and a few other urban libraries that I'm sorry I'm forgetting. But we meet about quarterly to get together and come together with these tough issues. And what are you doing? And the state library is also a part of that as well. And what are you doing? What are you doing? And have you had a drag queen story time yet? And lots of issues out there that we can commiserate with, but we can also get ideas from each other and support. So thank you for that question.
What change do you see with the reorganization of state government and moving the state library and some of the issues that we will be facing with that reorganization? What changes do you think is going to happen throughout the state with the libraries?
I can give you an example of how to hire. I think that's going to be. Our state library is an institution. We have wonderful staff there, and Iowa was very unique in that we have about 500 public libraries across the state. Every little teeny tiny town, every 20 miles, you can't go to a little town without having a public library. That's very different than other states. And so the state library really supports those hundreds of small libraries with training, with program ideas and support and grant opportunities. That state library was, like I have a board of trustees, there's an Iowa State Library Commission, a commission of library-centric professionals and people with lots of experience and passion for libraries that govern the state library. That has changed. They are now not a part of the Board of Education, which was the division they were previously in. With the state reorganization, they are now part of like an administrative branch, and there is movement to eliminate, just like the Board of Trustees, this Iowa Commission. If that happens, then we will have politicians placed in those positions. And there again, we're politicizing the governance process of librarians. So I asked our state library, I'm like, okay, we gotta deal with this issue about censorship and intellectual freedom. And what are you gonna do about it? And he's like, oh, we're Switzerland. He can't do anything about it. He's gonna off with his head. He's gonna lose his job if he takes a stand on this issue. And so that's why we, as our IUPLA directors and even other small libraries, we need to come together, our metro libraries, and come together because the state library cannot be in a position to provide leadership on that.
I want to thank you for libraries and books and the work you do. there are so many books that I never would have had access to if it weren't for libraries. Either I can't afford them or wouldn't have been able to get them. So many times I've been so appreciative. I have a question about literacy. How much of that is related to the fact that books are in English and students, that's not their first language?
Students who are English as a second language it's so easy for them to fall behind, and it's very difficult to find materials. And if we find the materials, the books, they are expensive. They're prohibitively expensive, especially books in Swahili or books that are in Bosnian languages. And they're very, Spanish you can find, French you can find, even Russian you can find, and some Chinese, but it's difficult to find them, have access to them. I think our schools, though, do a great job of assimilating them into the school system and getting their library skills. And those kids come into the library all the time, and they are put in the unfortunate position of being translators for their parents, because the parents have a much harder time having the training, the schooling, the education, and they will come in and they will translate for their parents. And they blow me away by how young they are, but how they have been assimilated into our culture so quickly. I credit the schools with that.
I wanted to add a little bit to the story of banning the Bible in school libraries. I'm Senator Kornbach, and when the bill, Senate Bill 496, first came up in the Senate, I raised the objection that according to the criteria that they had in the bill, the Bible would have to be banned. There are certain parts of the Old Testament especially, we won't go into the details, let's just say they're graphic. Well, Senator Rosenboom, the Republican who was running the bill, poo-pooed my objection. But the next time the bill came up in the Senate, sure enough, they had inserted some language to try to create an exception for the Bible. They made a cross-reference to another existing section of code that said you can't prohibit the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, and certain other religious texts from the schools. But that doesn't work, because the 496 says your library policy has to have all these restrictions. The only way you can comply with 496 now is to take the Bible and move it to, I don't know where, the guidance counselor's office, maybe the school nurse's office. The exception does not work. The broader point, of course, is why are we banning some of the greatest examples of human literature, history, literature, poetry, moral guidance? Why are we banning any of these from any place?
Thank you for your service, and thank you for sticking up for us and fighting that fight.
Just a comment and then a question in regards, when I was a child, I had difficulty learning to read. It was a library that I'd go to that finally introduced me to the Walter Farley series of books at that time about horses. And by the end of that summer, I was reading it at grade level. There was a librarian that ushered me into that area and went on. Also, as a gay person, when I was going through school, there was not any literature in the library at all to describe who I was and what I was about. I was still a psychiatric diagnosis. I was sick, and I was going to commit suicide by the time I was 32. That was basically what was available. I did not hear the word gay until I was a junior in college. That opened up a whole different world. If you don't have a vocabulary, if you don't have that literacy to help you find out who you are, we are sexual beings, and as a child, it has to be appropriate, but at the same time, children know that they are different. And it's only through a book that you can put a perspective for yourself on that.
I thank you for sharing that. You needed this book when you were a child. That's what this is all about. I was rereading it just this week, and it's about a child and who am I? Why do I feel differently? Children need representation in their literature. Whether they have two daddies, whether they are black, brown, whatever, they need to see themselves in books and know that they are not alone and know that there are other people like them and they can get information. This is a manual. And they say that when you come out, you should be handed a manual. You should, when you first discover you are gay, lesbian, trans, whatever, you should be given a manual. This is what this book is. This book is gay. That's what this is for. So those kids who are questioning and maybe even considering self-harm, they have a place to go. They might not be able to talk to their parents. They might not be able to talk to a teacher, but they can go to a public library and talk to a librarian, and we'll put that in their hands.
One last question.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I had one more. This has to do with access to books. I volunteer for the Planned Parenthood book sale every year. And that's going to go away. And this year, as I looked out over that sea of books, and we see a lot of librarians come in there the first night in particular and buy a lot of books cheap. What do you think the impact of that going away might be to small town libraries and people's access to books?
You know, I don't know. The Planned Parenthood book sale was a great celebration of literacy and access because they're $2, they're 50 cents, and they do need access. I hope that one of the outcomes is that we have access at the library for free. And as far as librarians and teachers are concerned, I hope that they will check out more books. The books are still there, and we will be selling them in our own book sales. And I assume we'll get a lot more donations because of the lack of that great book sale, but we have them. We have them available and they are for free. And we have teacher cards and educator cards, and we hope that people will use their library more as a result. But I too mourn the loss of our beloved sale.
Help me to thank you, Woody, and all of our work. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And I learned so much about what you have available, and I'm going to go and rent an ice cream maker, I think. So, because why not? Yeah, we'll just have a party at my house. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And Sue mentioned our new superintendent of Des Moines Public Schools, and he is our guest next month.
Oh, wonderful.
So, if you haven't met him or been in his presence, you will want to be here. He is impressive. And I was fortunate enough to be in a breakfast meeting with him a month or two ago. And I am delighted that he is part of our community and leading the Des Moines district. So you'll want to come back. Crossroads is always the third Friday of the month. And so whatever that date is, because I always forget to look, he will be our speaker. So hopefully you'll come back. If you're new to us, we are glad that you are here today. If you haven't given us your contact information, please do that, and so that we can keep you informed of what is happening. I highly, to Deborah's point, my good friend Deborah Thompson, who was talking about helping out in the school districts and with the school local elections, please do help in any way that you can, whether it's in your own district or a community near you. The school board elections are so very important. So early voting has already started. Elections on November 7th. We sent an email out on Wednesday. If you haven't read that, please do. There is a link to a website with a guide for some of the districts that are in most danger of being taken over by candidates that are part of Moms for Liberty and part of other organizations. So do look for that website. I can't remember what it is right now, but it's in that Wednesday email. If you can't find it, shoot me a note and I'll get that to you. And Kristen is working on making sure that link is on our website. So if you go to interfaithallianceiowa.org and go to the education page, then you'll be able to get to that next website that has school board candidate information. So schoolboardvoterguide.com. Schoolboardvoterguide.org. So a lot of good information, especially for the suburban districts in central Iowa, but also Cedar Rapids, Linn-Mar, Mason City, a lot of districts we're seeing that in. So anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for always using your voice and advocating on behalf of all Iowans, and thank you, Sue Woody. Really appreciate it.